mine was, thank God I had those 25-minute to half-hour windows of some old-time radio I was able to play of some of the Christmas shows.
You're glad I get lazy and leave those on once in a while, huh?
Yeah, just so I can steal them.
Who do we have listening in the chat room that we can wish Merry Christmas to?
Oh, well, Lisa unfortunately left the chat room. We do have a few guests in there.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody listening, by the way. Thank you to everybody, and I hope everybody out there is having a good Christmas. I really do. It's been a very opinionated last little while here on the show, and if you have an opinion on anything that we've talked about a a lot. We talked about Ariana Grande. We shot on John Cena. We talked about the PlayStation Network. We talked about Disney. We talked about Nickelodeon. We shot on Miranda Cosgrove. I talked about how people overspend. I talked about how it was over-commercialized. There's a lot of stuff we talked about. So if you want to talk about any of it, you can call in. Give us your opinion on the merchandise of Nickelodeon. Disney buying Marvel, I'm pissed off about that. I think they're going to ruin something really good. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but that's something interesting. I know that the Disney Infinity 2.0 video game has been sold quite a bit. I don't know what
flew off the shelves.
What do you think of that?
That in Disney Infinity with Marvel characters has flown off the shelves. We couldn't keep them in stock in my store. And
it's amazing.
No, I actually think, due to the fact that Stan Lee's basically retiring, but he still has creative input with him, I think it's actually a good thing Disney got Marvel instead of somebody, say, like Paramount. Because Paramount doesn't know what to do with a franchise. They haven't had one in so long.
Paramount hasn't created anything interesting in years.
Right. And, the other option would have been Sony, and the Sony influence on Marvel wouldn't be a good thing.
No, I agree with you totally. 100%.
And Disney's already taken the reins with the Star Wars films. That's actually cost me a little bit personally because they announced the director for the next Star Wars film, not the one that's about to come out, but the next one. They've already announced the director. And he was DreamWorks' top action guy, and he had me lined up to do a voice in a DreamWorks animation. But he shelved the film to do Star Wars. Why? I don't know. Of course, to do Star Wars. Duh.
Oh, man. I didn't even ask you, Skull, what you got for Christmas or how your Christmas was.
It wasn't bad. My niece got me this killer lock blade knife that's covered with skulls. And
obviously.
Yeah, and a skeleton hand pendant that you pull the middle finger and it's a knife.
I ended up spending it with Australian girls between the ages of 8 and 10.
Oh, well, Lord.
Which was kind of fun.
And
but the downer of it all was my nephew. The downer of Christmas this year for me was my nephew who didn't get to spend the actual Christmas with me. He's actually with his dad tonight, who we dedicated this show to, who was actually in the intro, if you heard it, Skull, which was kind of cool. He kind of just showed up on our show, one of my shows with Bob, ever since earlier this year, and he's been making a scattered appearance, so hopefully we'll see him again. Merry Christmas to you, buddy, by the way. It was hard for me because this was the first Christmas without my dad, given the circumstances of his death. And then
I've lost more than a few friends that way, so I know how you feeling, man.
It hasn't been easy, and the thing is, the death ratio of people committing suicide is exceptionally up from what it was years ago. Years ago, you'd never hear about this kind of thing, and now you're hearing about it. Like, I think it's once a week somebody does it now, and in different ways. So it's terrible because you know about it, but you don't really know what the reason is why they did what they did, and that's the unfortunate thing about that.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, successful contractor in L.A. Just went up to the Hollywood Hills on Christmas Eve, and boom, one to the head.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the trip.
And you don't hear about it. You don't hear about that kind of thing, you know. And then the worst thing is, after it happens, there are so many people talking about what you're doing. You post a picture of yourself on Facebook or Twitter, and they turn it around. If you're spotted drinking out in a bar, you're an alcoholic because of what happened. You know, it's ridiculous. And give me a break. You know, it happened. It doesn't mean that the individual that it happens to is headed down a precarious road because that's what happened. It's just what happened. And just because that happened to me, that doesn't mean that I'm going away forever and nobody's going to hear about me anymore. Like I said, you know, it's just something that happened, and you know, you just have to be thankful for what's around you. Like right now, I'm staring at a gigantic Hulk plush toy that my nephew has. And it's just, you know, that's what you have to look ahead for. You know, the fact that you have somebody in your life to be there for. And it's just, I think, why are so many people giving up? I don't know. I don't know what the reason is for it.
Yeah, no, it's just a tough thing to get inside somebody's head when they're in that situation. It
is, and the sad thing is, we'll never know the answer to that. We'll never know the real reasons why people do. We just make assumptions. Like we sit here as radio and you know, with writing columns as columnists, radio hosts and columnists, and we comment on something. Like we comment on John Cena and why we agree or disagree with why he's been labeled as the man, and why I hate the idea that he's the best, and why you believe he's the best. But we're only making assumptions as to why we believe he's the best.
I'm not saying he's the best. I'm just saying that right now he's their best option to put butts in seats.
Right. Yes. 10 years from now, that may not be the case. We make assumptions on why Ariana Grande and Jeanette McCurdy don't get along. We're only assuming why we think they don't get along. We don't know why.
Yeah,
but if they
I mean,
ever hear us,
Jeanette is the closest thing Nickelodeon's had to a meltdown. You know, other than Britney Spears' sister.
Yeah, Jamie Lynn Spears. I remember her from years ago on Zoe 101. Me and Bob did how many commentaries on her back in the day? In 2006, how many commentaries did we do on her? Holy Jesus.
Well,
that's
God,
why you don't get trailer trash money.
I'll tell you, man. There's just regardless of what we think, there are people out there that have. Yeah, there are so many people out there that will never know what could have become of certain shows and certain people with Nick. To me, the biggest travesty of someone not being pushed right, especially at a time when you really could have used him, was Drake Bell.
Yep.
And that was a disaster in its own right.
And
Drake and Josh was a good show.
It was a good show, but Drake Bell, they were wanting to sell him in a big way, and Disney. That's also at the same time when Disney decided they were going to they needed to discover someone to counteract that, and they came out with the Jonas Brothers. And if you listen to the Jonas Brothers, I'm not going to knock them as far as their talent goes. But come on, Drake Bell, much better as a vocalist, a little more of a rocker than the Teeny Bop and Jonas Brothers are.
Yeah, well, and you got to realize something though. Drake did something actually pretty smart for himself when he did take off, because part of that slowdown was on him.
Yeah.
And he went back to school.
I see. That's a smart thing to do. Got his
degree. That's what Miranda Cosgrove did. She dropped out. She went to college. She said, "Hey, I've made money. I'm set for quite a while. I'm going to get my degree, so I'm set after this."
No, and that's like I said. That's
she looked around and she saw people from her own generation who are basically stuck in trailers, working at a Burger King.
You know, that's a good move. To me, that's what a Miley Cyrus should have done. She went about reinventing herself when her music wasn't selling. She went about reinventing herself, turning herself into more of a slutty freak show.
Yeah,
when
Skankana.
yeah, just because she wanted to sell records. And I said, she could have easily have come back, been able to show off her talent, and not have to go scantily clad like she did, and bleach her hair blonde and cut it short to where it's an eraser. Go out, get your degree, spend 3 or 4 years out of the limelight, and then come back. That's what I think that's what's going to happen to Mitchell Musso.
Well, she just got married.
Who's that?
Miley. Just got married to a Kennedy. Which, okay, Schwarzenegger married a Kennedy just so that they could produce a Kennedy that could take a bullet. Now, Miley married him just to prove that they could produce a Kennedy that's brain damaged.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I don't know why.
That's one messed up gene pool right there.
When I stop liking celebrities, I'll never understand why. When